of cool games.
Yes. Yes. Speaking of documents of cool games, I forgot to record this, but hello. You need to be, folks, you need to show up live for Indiepocalypse Radio because sometimes I forget to hit the record button.
Dang. Oh, wow. The lost tapes.
The lost tapes. We've got 2 of them so far. I got so into it. We got so wrapped up in our conversation that I'm like, oops, I forgot to hit whatever. That's the beauty of the live show. Is like, let's to sum it up. Different games aren't bad. You like games. Art TA.
Art TA. Yeah.
Art
there you go.
TA.
Yeah. Art time attack.
Art time attack. You're attacking in real time.
Right. Most of the stuff on this upcoming marathon is actually more in the vein of like showcases and
right.
like score attacks. So that's kind of cool, right? It's like a kind of weird hodgepodge mixture of speed runs and there's a lecture too. We're gonna have a PowerPoint presentation.
Oh, perfect. Is it very fast?
about George Bush flash games, which I think is gonna be, a little bit of a nostalgia trip and essentially.
New Grads keeps coming up on this show.
Yeah. I think Barry, who's the person who's going to be showing it off, has amassed like a bunch of Newgrounds Bush Flash games, and so it's going to be pretty fun to watch.
Not knowing those games, I have a feeling of like what they look like and what they sound like.
You just kind of remember like the aesthetic, I think, without actually knowing what any of the games contained, like what actually happened in any of them. You just can kind of picture George Bush's like wrinkly like flash face.
Yes. If it's not like literal like cutout images from the internet, then it's a very specific type of flash aesthetic.
Exactly. Yeah. So I feel like it was a whole like universe unto itself for a while. And I got a sneak preview of the showcase, and I think it's going to be a very nice retrospective of George Bush Flash games. And we have a couple of shmups too, which is really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that is part of my my motivation of learning Japanese in this past year is like really trying to understand and being able to access that indie scene, both like modern and like historically speaking, because I feel like once there's that, Japan is also a hub of computer game creation, as it were, a lot of which never made it over here.
Yeah. So shmups have been kind of a portion of each of the RTA events so far. Previously, Sean, who's doing a couple of other things this time, had like a little mini showcase. And yeah, it's fascinating. Like every time I see a shmup on a RTA, it's like a game that I've absolutely never heard before, but it's just like bafflingly beautiful. There's something just really satisfying about about seeing like bullet spray.
How many times? What would you say percentage of these are Toho?
Percentage of Toho?
I guess
like in terms of like the overall like percentage of the marathon
of the shmups, that is.
Oh geez, I don't know.
Okay, it might be zero.
It could be. I want to say that it could be zero. There we go. Extruder knows more than me about shmups.
Yeah.
But yeah, these are kind of off the beaten path.
Yeah, perfect. I think shmups tend to just find their way here the most often because they have the lowest language barrier. Bullets transcend language.
Yes. Yep. Big shooty planes can really be understood regardless of where you are in the world.
Yeah. I don't want to get hit by those things.
No, you want to not get hit. Yes.
Yeah.
And watch the points go up. Yes, get a high score.
Perfect.
Right.
Good. I know RTA is truly underground if it doesn't assume Japanese shmup equals Toho.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some interesting
Because they
interesting
have
shmup
like
for sure.
that's a big company or big thing owned by one person. Ooh.
It was made. Oh, it's developed by one person. Oh, I actually didn't know that.
Or it's like one person made it, but he has a very laissez-faire like licensing policy. Or I have not fully dove into fully understand. I understood Toho more than I did in 2020, but not enough to be an expert on it. Given that, like in 2019 or 2020, I would say my understanding of it was 1%. And that if I saw anime lady, I'm like Toho.
Yeah. Yeah.
With a certain style of dress that I, much like art games, I could not describe it to you, but I
Yeah.
would know it when I see it.
Yeah. I think for a while, like I conflated Toho and Bullet Hell.
Right.
That was just kind of my ignorance at the
Right.
time. So
Because,
now I understand there's like a distinction. Like Toho is a series within the realm of Bullet Hell shmups, right?
but they have like Metroidvanias and all platformers or whatever else. It's just like a shared universe. Or anyway, let's forget about all that. Where could we find RTA? Since in case for instance you are not here for the end when we do the plugs, where one might find RTA tomorrow, that is.
Yeah, so 12 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time, we'll be streaming about 8.5 hours of rip-roaring art game action at a twitch.tv/warm_ham. So yeah, that's the place to be. It's going to be a lot of fun. It'll be, just the right amount of chaotic. I tend to just have these little interstitial like voice to text moments, or sorry, text to speech moments.
Yes.
Kind of interspersed. So it's just kind of this weird, barely comprehensible event. And tomorrow should be no different.
Perfect. It'll probably be, if you forget where it is, just come here. It'll probably be hosted on this page. You were one of my auto hosting people.
Sweet.
Because I realized that I have this channel that I use but once a week.
Yeah. Might as well
Yeah.
be promoting other stuff in the meantime. Yeah.
Exactly. If people know how to find their way here, eventually they'll be like, well, what's here? I should find my way somewhere else. To
Right
RTA.
On. Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me on. It's been a nice chat for sure.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah.
It's unfortunately we lost half of our chat because I was not paying attention. But thus is the beauty of live radio.
Yes. So be it. You have to be here, folks.
You have to. That was my original. Originally, I wanted this to be live, no archives, and people said make the archives, and this me getting back at you every now and then by clearly forgetting to hit, purposefully forgetting to hit record, and then pretending I did it on accident. Thank you. We're going to go to a break and more anime. Thanks again, Warm Ham.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone. Hello and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. Warm Ham had to leave. Let me get rid of that little picture there so you know that he has officially goodbye.
Ham has left the building.
Ham is gone. We are here with our next guest who's a little chatty, likes to talk before he's introduced.
Oops.
That is Derivative, returning guest who you may know from twitch.tv/Derivative. Speaking of things I forgot to do the live tweet. Listen, folks, I just like to do this show and talk to people. I always forget the busy work of it all. What's the name of your... Oh, God, how did I forget the name of it?
Name of what?
Your show. Does it have a... Do you have a name of your show?
Oh, yeah. It's called... They Came From Obscurity.
Yes, there it is. Perfect. Oh. I saw a very... Someone's going to be happy... Someone's going to be happy with one of these thumbnails I saw with the next issue of Indiepocalypse coming out next Friday. A little sneak peek for someone who can do the mental math of going to your Twitch page and looking at your thumbnails. But I think there's a lot of natural overlap in one direction or the other between.
Yeah, it definitely seems like still to this day, and I think I pointed it out the last time I was on. There's always one game that like we somehow overlap in.
Right. I think it's just like, well, it's like a natural part of like these are the game kind of like is good because it's nice to see a game kind of like permeating through like the art scene sort of. Oops. Mm-hmm. Oh, Ham has disappeared. I forgot to transition to the new scene in which he has vanished. But yes, no, I like this. It does seem like these games are, like I said, sort of rippling through this tiny indie sphere.
Yeah, I want to say this time around, it's I forgive me if it's not the latest Indiepocalypse, BizarioWare.
Yes, BizarioWare I think was the last issue.
And not only that, but I don't know if you had seen Strangest.io had done a post a while back where they were doing a limited edition archive, like physical copies of the games.
I did not see that, no.
Yeah, so there's a BizarioWare one. They did 12 copies of it, and I have it with me right now.
Wow. What does it look like? As someone who enjoys like limited physical copies of things.
I mean, it's pretty cool. It's a small version of a big box. Basically an archive version. It's got some stickers in it. It's got a little packet of rolling papers for reasons.
Is it a trapezoid?
No, it's just a little cardboard square box. It looks like, you know, the old 90s big box releases, except you can actually fit it on a shelf next to your PlayStation games or something.
For some reason, in my heart, a big box is a trapezoid. I don't.
Yeah,
there weren't that many of them, but
no, I want to say was it Eidos did that with like Tomb Raider?
Yeah,
had a trapezoid.
I think so. And I think like the Blizzard like 3-in-1s were trapezoids too, maybe.
Oh, like the battle chests?
Yeah. Maybe. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't recall.
But anyway, BizarioWare, interesting, good game. Strangest.io. Check it out, Indiepocalypse. I think you may have heard of it, or you may not have heard of it. You may have come here for the art and the TAs.
I hear there's a series of them.
Yes, I heard it's next Sunday, General Eastern Time. United States Eastern Time. You know the time, folks. It's the EST, or the EDT, technically speaking.
Yep. And if y'all didn't hear, if you're not listening to it live right now, you didn't hear it.
Are you poaching my questions? Are you poaching my questions? I hear you are going to be on RTA. Some might say, I have it on good authority from a one Warham. Kicking it off?
Yeah, no pressure there. Being the first game showing off on the latest RTA series.
What are you showing off?
So the theme of this RTA series, which is a very loose idea of a theme, was corporate edition.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it really kind of fit it. I mean, it's art games. Take anything that way. So I saw the theme, and I didn't know what game I was going to submit at that time. So what I literally did is I went on itch, as I'm one to do, and I went and I did a search for the tag communism.
Okay.
And that's where I found this game called Jeff by a developer by the name of Jeremy Couillard. Really, really unique style of game. They've actually got a new game coming out in a couple of days. I can't recall what the name of it is. But I'm keeping the theme that I've kind of unofficially had, because my first RTA series was last year's one, where I played a game called They Came from Communist Planet. So I've kind of kept a theme of communism and anti-capitalism.
That sounds familiar. It's gonna bug me. Keep going though.
Yeah, so I'm keeping my tradition, my 2-year tradition of anti-capitalism games. So who knows what I'll do next year?
Oh, if you enjoyed Came from Communist Planet, keep an eye on the next issue of Indiepocalypse.
Oh,
if you like the creator Colestia, I'm just gonna say, keep an eye on the next issue of Indiepocalypse. That's a Indiepocalypse Radio exclusive for you and yours.
And depending on if you record it or not, people may or may not hear it.
I am recording this, and if you're on Patreon, you'll get to hear this Monday of. But if you're not, if you're in the general public, let's just say I've been in emails with someone, and we also have one exclusively created game per issue, and you put those two clues together.
Oh.
Yes. I knew that. I'm like, why did that name sound so familiar? And now, yes, that's why it sounded so familiar, because I know that person.
I feel like I should be wearing a deerstalker cap.
You should be.
You're detective work.
You're uncovering all those clues.
Yeah.
And I gave.
Do I have to steal the Declaration of Independence now, or?
To be fair, Mr. Policeman, I did give you all of them, and you solved it on your own.
Did you just pull a snowman on me?
I did. That I don't know when, but that quote re-implanted itself into my brain within the last few months, and I can't stop thinking about it. It's so good. But what would you say is the snowman of video games?
Snowman of video games.
And why did Quantic Dream make it?
Oh, yeah. I guess in a way Heavy Rain is kind of that, isn't it?
Well, they gave us, to be fair, in Heavy Rain, they gave us none of the clues. In Heavy Rain, the murderer thinks about how he's not the murderer. I'm assuming you played Heavy Rain?
I want to say that's the only one I actually managed to get through.
Okay, so let's go on if you don't mind going on this sidebar journey with me about Heavy Rain. So Heavy Rain spoilers coming up for everybody. Heavy Rain, heavy spoilers. The private detective is the murderer that everyone's trying to find, right? But like in Heavy Rain, you can like listen to people's thoughts, you know?
Right.
And he thinks like he's trying to find the murderer and that he's not the murderer.
Yeah, it's like they tried to pull some Memento kind of thing, but just completely ham-fisted.
Right, because it doesn't. Listen, if in case you haven't figured out from the zine or from our previous discussion, I like art stuff, and I get that like things aren't always perfectly explained, but that just doesn't make any sense within the internal logic of things. Anyway.
Yeah.
You can lose, your kids can die, and then the lady's like, let's make new kids. The game sucks. Or it's whatever. I don't know.
Though I will have to admit, because the game came out when I was in college, there is this one scene where you're the guy who keeps yelling, Sean.
Yeah.
I can't remember what his name was. I want to say it's Ethan because that's a very white person name.
It seems like Ethan would be a sad protagonist,
yeah.
all the way back to my man Frome.
Yeah. But there's like this scene where they pull like a Saw situation where he's in I vaguely remember this. He's in a room and he's been tasked to like cut off his finger.
Yes.
And they give you like all these like options of like how to cut off his finger. I'm trying to remember what they were exactly. Like,
right. It's like hands. It's like buzzsaw. It's like hacksaw. It's like butter knife or something like that.
Yeah. Bagel slicer.
Right.
And I recall this like because it was just so ham-fistedly done. I had to see how every single item interacted with trying to cut his finger off or hand or whatever it was exactly. I don't even remember.
If you're feeling that Quantic Dream itch, go for what's the studio? They're doing those anthology games now. You know the ones I'm talking about?
The anthology one. Oh, you're talking like the
Man from Medan.
Yeah, Man from Medan kind of ones.
Yes. Until Dawn.
Oh yeah. I don't remember what the name of the studio is.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway, that studio I think is like it does Quantic Dream stuff, but like better and more interesting. Not great. I would still agree. I would still say not great, but it's like it's real like middle of the road horror. You know?
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't they get like the guy from Mr. Robot in one of them?
Yes. I mean, yeah. The first one had Rami Malek in it. It had Peter Stormare in it. It had I forgot the lead actress's name, but yes, they pulled, and then they could not afford those people for their smaller budget versions, so they got like someone who appeared in one episode of Mr. Robot as a side character, going, "Yeah, I saw the robot. He was down the street." Or whatever Mr. Robot's about. I've never seen it. It's about robots, right?
I think so.
Rami Malek is a robot, and he's like everyone's friend.
It's a prequel to Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh, yes. Bohemian Rhapsody. Right, that movie. That is, yeah. I've never seen Bohemian Rhapsody.
It's where a hacker just like pulls himself up by his bootstraps to become Freddie Mercury.
Listen, if we could only all be so lucky for part of it, maybe not the last part of it. R.I.P. Freddie Mercury. 40 years later. What do you think about what do you think about Jigsaw's quotes going corporate?
That was so bizarre.
Do you think they were always corporate? Do you think there was a plant the whole time?
I feel like it's one of those situations like when someone gets a tweet that gets vaguely popular, and then all of a sudden some blanket company says, "We'll pay you $20 to do a promoted tweet under this popular one."
Yes.
I see it as one of those kind of situations where they do that.
Okay.
I mean, I know, what was it? There was one a while back called like Horse eBooks.
Yes, Horse eBooks.
That turned out to be some like ambitious project that like failed miserably.
Right, because the charm was gone. Although everything is happening all the time. I think that's the lasting legacy of Horse eBooks. And I'm fine with that. What is the exact quote? Everything happens horse. Anyway, if you can get it, everything happens so much. Thank you, internet. We're at the looking up things up on the internet portion of the show. If you can get your $20 from Legendary or whatever studio puts out Saw, get your $20, dude.
Right?
do your watch along.
Somehow.
Yeah. Do your watch along. Get that Adult Swim show, Drill.
Yeah, that was bizarre that he see Drill on doing Adult Swim stuff.
Did you ever watch it? I never watched it.
I want to say it's a web only show.
It was, yeah.
And it's like in the style of like an InfoWars kind of thing.
Yes, I knew that much. I just never watched it.
I watched a bit of it. It was a little too weird for me. Like, I just couldn't get into it.
Okay.
Like I like Drill in that kind of 140 characters.
Yes. I like Drill and seeing Drill retweets every now and then.
Yeah.
Like I like people calling the good stuff for me.
I mean, nothing is ever going to top "I'm not owned, I'm not owned." I say as I shrivel and transform into a corn cob.
My number one Drill tweet is the Flag Museum.
I'm not familiar with that one.
It's the one where he's like working against the Betsy Ross Museum. Everyone keeps asking if they can fuck the flag. buddy. They don't even let me do it.
Oh man.
There are phrases that I occasionally say to myself, you know, like I think everyone has those things, you know.
Yeah.
And that is one of them, where I just kind of think that as like a thing that just like, buddy, they won't even let me fuck it. As like, like as my version of listen, I can't even get this done. It's that, or it's, yeah, I think that might have said that on the show before. Listen to the beauty of, did I say this on the show before? That or Shaq at Knott's Berry Farm is the best tweets, hands down.
I would admit I would absolutely love to read a story in the style of Kafka's Metamorphosis where he transforms into a corn cob.
Yes, have you read Kafka's Metamorphosis?
Been a long time.
It's actually, I remember like hearing about it for so long, and then like, let me read this book that people keep referencing. I'm like, oh, it's actually good.
Yeah.
Is there has there been something that in your life where you've heard it like referenced a million times? You're like, let me give this thing a try, and you're like, oh, it's actually good, or the other way, it's actually you hated
usually
it.
It's the other way. Usually it's the other way around. Like people talking about The Godfather.
Right.
It took me so long to watch the Godfather movies. And I just couldn't get through them. Like I tried. I kept falling asleep during the wedding.
Which
is like first 20 minutes of the movie.
Right. I was gonna say that's the very beginning of the movie. I had that. Yes, I had that similar inverse experience recently with Event Horizon, where people kept referring to it as like, oh, weird shit in space where they meet the devil. And I was like, oh, this isn't enough for me.
Yeah. I kind of had this. I kind of had the same experience with Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. I watched.
Oh my yes. Listen, let's commiserate on how disappointing Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai was.
Like I remember seeing like the shots of Jeff Goldblum as a cowboy.
Yes.
Like this has to be amazing, but I mean, I'm watching it. And I'm in my mind. I'm expecting like a what's the movie I'm thinking of? The one with Big Trouble in Little China.
Right. Okay.
I was expecting something along those lines, and it definitely was not.
No, it's like exceptionally middle of the road.
Yeah.
It's not like, right. It's Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai out there for like one of the most disappointing. I was expecting, so I love Flash Gordon.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of Queen.
Like unambiguously, I think that movie, talking about RTA and talking about art that seems bad and it's easy to look at and think, I love the version of like sci-fi where it's Flash Gordon and not Star Wars or something, or like Star Wars doesn't take off, so all sci-fi is like still looks like Flash Gordon or something.
Yeah. No, there's movie called Trancers that's kind of Flash Gordon-esque. You know, just that kind of low budget sci-fi feel.
Yeah.
I think it was done by like Full Moon, so you know you're in really good company with B movies. But it was kind of like a budget version of Blade Runner, and I loved it.
Okay. Budget version. Listen,
it's a budget version of Blade Runner that happens to be the first movie of Helen Hunt.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. No, okay, never mind. I was reading, I thought I saw this on Trash Night. I did not. Shout outs to if you're... No, this is not that movie. I saw something that had like a similar setup with like time travel and drugs and everything. But I think it starred Magnum PI, Tom Selleck.
Oh, wow.
This is a recommendation for all those people. If you like this show, if you like Indiepocalypse, if you like these vibes, I highly recommend Trash Night Video, which is the third Tuesday of every month. It's truly got me through everything in the world.
I gotta check it out.
It's amazing. which is like an online replacement for a show that they used to host locally in Boston. And I hope that when that theater opens back up, they still keep doing it online as well. Because I love it, but I don't want to go I don't want to go to Boston to watch that show. But yes, there is a beauty to like. To a sense, even the original Star Wars has some of that charm to it. That kind of like musty, let's see what we can pull out of the prop closet sci-fi to it. Then it just kept getting more money and more money.
Yep. And then he had to go back and fix the charm.
Yes, he had to go correct his charm. And then he had, listen, I'm sure there's something to be said about the new Star Warses, which is to say the middle Star Warses. And that this one dude wanted to do the thing that he wanted to do. I remember seeing a tweet a while ago that it was like, it was about the fact that George Lucas was like, just like, what is George Lucas's trajectory if Star Wars isn't successful? Like,
I don't know. I would have loved to see it though.
Does he just like make weird stuff, weird like serials and art stuff for stuff that he enjoyed growing up with for the rest of his career? And if he doesn't get locked into the Star Wars machine,
like, you look at stuff like THX. I would have loved to see him kind of, try some other things.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of really, hit a home run with Star Wars and kind of got stuck in that. And, he did some stuff with like not George Lucas. He is George Lucas.
Right.
Steven Spielberg. But past that, like,
part of that guy's problem is he did too much stuff with George Lucas.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen the films by like George Romero that are not zombie films.
No, I have not.
Like, he, like, after I think Night of the Living Dead, he decided to kind of do. I mean, he did things like The Crazies, and he did this one movie that involved knights on motorcycles.
Okay.
That it is an I can't remember the name of it, but it's an absolute trip. But like, people just kept expecting more and more zombie films of him. But I don't think like Lucas really never got that experience. Like he kind of got stuck in Star Wars land for like the majority of his career. I know he did that like one
Red Wings or something.
Red Wings. Yeah.
Yeah. Season of the Witch. No.
Oh, God. Season of the Witch is the best Halloween movie.
I've watched a lot of you were thinking of Knight Riders.
Knight Riders, that's it, yes.
Starring Ed Harris. What a cover. The games, the romance, the spirit. Camelot is a state of mind. Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, if you can track that film down, it's a trip.
Yeah, there's like a pocket of I like movies. I like once I surrendered myself to being forever culturally out of touch with like whatever the modern zeitgeist is. Mm-hmm. I just like going into finding and looking for weird stuff or stuff off the beaten path that's like gotta be good, gotta be interesting. Scanners was a lot better than I was expecting to be.
Oh, yeah.
I love Patrick McGowan taking a nap through that entire movie. Anyway.
Yeah, I definitely want to say my perusing of the side shelves of the movie rental store were kind of the starting moments of my getting into finding very small off the beaten path indie games.
Yeah. There's a beautiful world out there that's going to speak directly to you. Imagine I'm pointing at you. You listen to this right now. Just if you free yourself. I thought we were going to get out of the monoculture for a while. As a teen, I was very smart. I was like, well, the internet killed monoculture. Little did I know Disney would spend their way back into it.
Yeah. Was it like Amazon's buying MGM or something? So it's getting even more homogenized?
Yes. Let's all make the same 5 movies over and over again. Anyway.
Let's make a backstory where Cruella's mother is killed by dogs.
Yes. I've seen
a lot.
That's
why she hates the Dalmatians.
I've seen
Spoilers
a lot of...
for anyone who was planning on watching that movie.
You don't need
to
see
shit.
Right. You don't need to see that movie. You're fine. You're honestly, you're fine. If you never watched a movie made after this moment right now, you could still watch movies the rest of your life, and you would be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Anyway,
there's a lot of them.
There are.
Make sure they're not getting lost, because
exactly.
More and more over time, you think about how many films are just, lost because they were stuck in a film studio in a highly volatile canister that studio happened to catch fire. So
right,
we've lost most of our silent film history.
Yeah. That was another, to bring it all back to the first segment, movies was another one that hit me at one point. That word, that they're pictures that move, thus they're movies. Much like a talkie.
Yeah.
Imagine the world where we call them talkies instead of movies.
Or even a world where people don't try to correct you when you say movie or film.
Right. Speaking of film, we need to cut this segment off. We're approaching that's a bad transition. Sorry about my bad transition, everyone. I had a good one. I wanted to lose confidence in myself. You cut a film.
You can edit it afterwards and make it so you nailed it.
I did nail it. I don't edit this show. Guess what if we called them Nickelodeons? I remember when I was playing Mob Rule for the PC, and they called the movie theaters the Nickelodeons because they were Odeon is probably a root word from something else, and you would pay a nickel to see them. Thus, they were Nickelodeons, and etymology is a fun thing.
Mm.
If he would, on our way out to the break, if you were to recommend one really schlocky piece of shit that you love of a film, what would it be?
Basket Case.
Perfect. Don't look that up, everyone. Just go and watch it. And with that, we're going to go to break. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you.
Thanks for having me.
20 to 30 minutes. Hello, and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. It's the return of this show. I really like that AMV has a real good, tiny, hunched over shoulders. That is one of my favorite drawings. Those favorite drawing style of Beastars is I'm angry and I've got my shoulders hunched over. I'm in the background. And it looks good. We are here with our next guest, who you may know. Someone actually from Indiepocalypse. Indiepocalypse issue number 10 with budget rate stigmata. It's Hero Rob. Hello, how you doing?
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm enjoying the show. I'm 3 episodes, 3 guests in, not 3 episodes in. And once I'm 3 guests in, I get a little punchier, especially I'm
a little spicy.
Exactly. I've been dreading the fact that sometimes, for whatever reason, these upcoming episodes have been extremely difficult to schedule. I don't know why, but not this one, but all the ones after this, I've started BCCing 10 people at once, and I'm starting to realize that I'm quickly approaching the point where, we're just going to hit the point where I'm going to have repeat guests, which, listen, I don't know why I was obsessing over not having repeat guests. It was something I needed to do, even though, long-running podcasts by LA actor comedy types repeat guests all the time, and sometimes have only one guest scheduled.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
No, there isn't, but I hold myself to absurd standards sometimes for no particular reason, merely to punish myself. But
I know all about that.
Speaking of punishing yourself, how did you hear about Indiepocalypse?
It was after I made budget rate stigmata for I don't even remember what, I think it was a low resolution game jam, and I believe like everyone really hated it. And I was like, well, I mean, I feel really bad because I feel like this is probably uh the best thing that I've made so far.
Right.
And so I was just kind of looking for places to throw it out to be like, does is it really bad? I need to really confirm is it bad. And so I was looking for other like things to submit it to, and
Yeah.
Indiepocalypse was one of them. I had no expectations of actually getting in it.
Well, listen, I love bad media. No, that's I have to undercut that. Not knowing me, and you not in case you can't parse my sarcasm immediately. No, I think the game was good. That's why it's in there. I don't put bad games in Indiepocalypse. Know that. Sometimes I have to play a game too long because I can't. I've reached a point sometimes where I'm like, is this game like a shit post or is it really bad? And I have to I can't tell sometimes.
I get really endeared to games when I'm like, I'm not sure if the game is this really bizarre and trippy or if it's like just poorly made and bugging out.
Right.
I really like it when that happens. So I don't know.
Yeah, I've had increasing difficulties of trying to figure out which games are like if I play through this bad game enough, does it secretly become really smart and clever? And it just is pretending to be a bad game. And I want to put on the submission page, if your game is a bad, only pretending to be a bad game, but it's secretly a good game, please tell me up front, so I can suffer through it. But they're pretty much, I think they're all games that look bad from the onset are bad. And I use the word bad a lot, and that seems like it's unfair, but I've used bad to mean a lot of things during this show. This time when I say it, I mean they are not fun to play. They have no creative merit. Why did you bother to submit this thing to this? Which is the harshest way of saying it, but the most honest way of saying it.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, I think when I think think something is a bad game, that's probably my definition as well. I try not to decide that things are bad really quickly.
Right.
But I get kind of pretentious sometimes and then kind of just fall into it.
And I guess most of the time they're not bad so much as they are clearly you're just starting out making games. And I think there is a culture of making games first and not just being really self-indulgent into what you want to make. So people will make I got Unity assets. Here's a platformer, and it's bad because it's not trying anything.
Yeah.
I would prefer a bad thing that tries something that has like an identity to it, rather than just a bad thing with no identity.
Yeah, I don't think for the first year and a half that I was after I started playing and programming in game engines, I was I'm going to make this giant 20-hour game with no experience and no idea what I'm doing. I spent way too long doing that, but at least during the time I didn't put out 17 generic platforming games.
Yes, yeah. Listen, Square Boy's Big Adventure, where the physics feels bad because you're using Unity's baked-in physics. Here's a tip for you all out there. This is Indiepocalypse tip put in the book. You can just do math, and that makes physics. Do your own math. X. Actually, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Unity. I've never used Unity, so maybe Unity's 2D. You can't just like move something forward a certain amount of units. I don't know if there's a unit. Have you used Unity?
I've used Unity a total of probably like 2 hours.
Okay, well, that doesn't help me very much.
I primarily use Godot.
Godot looks like Unity. Is there a unit of measurement in Godot? If I wanted to move something, like say, move it forward X some number of spots along the X axis, can I do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So listen, everyone, use the X, Y, and Z axis and just move things upon units based on that axis. Baked in physics, they're bad 90% of the time, and I hate playing them. They feel clunky and awkward and floaty and weird and.
Yeah, if you don't like customize how much like mass things have, and everything feels exactly the same. It's really awkward.
Yeah, I've played so many games that are just like it feels so clumsy and imprecise. And like everything's kind of like jumbling around. It's all jumbly and I don't know. Maybe I'm just like of a particular mindset. But don't care for it. Speaking of don't caring for it, if you were to imagine any villain getting their own origin story, who would it be?
Any villain?
Getting it. Yes, yeah, so like a truly unearned origin story.
It's just I don't know. I have to think.
Well, I'm sorry the moment has passed.
Yes. I mean, my mind is immediately going to super villains and superhero stories, which I guess is because that's like the oversaturated genre of films right now.
Yeah.
And I can't think of anything in that genre that would be remotely interesting.
No, you don't want to hear about how, the starfish guy from Justice League became an angry starfish guy? You know?
I don't think so.
That's too bad. I remember when Marvel was starting to take off, I remember thinking, and I still think, like, so, what is your general impression of, I guess, this Marvel world of films?
In the cinematic universe?
I wouldn't say such a thing. I think only the Dark Universe is the only cinematic universe that I respect.
Which one's the Dark Universe?
That's the Mummy and the Invisible Man.
Oh yes. I think like I don't know. I don't really like any of the Marvel movies very much at all, and I don't know if it's because I have this preconceived thing that like they're the super immensely popular thing that's just saturated the entire market, and then therefore I just have a knee-jerk reaction of like, oh fuck that, I don't care.
Yes.
Or if it's because they're actually, legitimately bad.
How do you feel about superheroes in general?
I think that you can do a lot of really interesting things with superheroes, and 99% of all media, including the comics, don't do the interesting things. They're like, well, there's a bad guy, and the good guy got to go over and punch him. And I'm like, okay.
Well, he does have to go punch them. He's doing bad stuff.
If you got a guy who needs punching, you got a guy that's good at punching, there you go.
Who do you think is the best superhero at punching?
The best superhero at punching?
Yeah. Who do you think is the best? Who's the best at punching?
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is Superman with all of his, uh, overly, god powers that just gets, you know, his weakness is whatever they kryptonite and whatever the thing is at the current moment that it needs to be for so he doesn't just, win in a second.
Would one not argue that Superman's weakness is that he cares too much?
I don't know. Is that his weakness?
I guess technically it's a glowing rock. Listen,
yeah, it's a glowing rock, or it's when Doomsday punches him in the face, or it just whatever happens to be there at the time if they can't get Weasel kryptonite into the story at that point.
Yeah, I guess I had superheroes are weird in that I don't like to bring it to the secret pre-show. I read a lot of comic books, but very few of them are superhero books because who's got the time to figure that out, Also,
there's a lot of backstory and reference that you need.
Right, and every 6 issues, the creative team changes. So it's like, yeah. I really like this book. Oops, it looks completely different now, and it's not what you like. It's not what you liked anymore. Half the characters are gone.
Their personalities are all completely different.
Yes, sometimes
because someone else is writing it now.
Right. Sometimes that's for the better. Sometimes you get ecstatics, which is, I think, strictly an upgrade over whatever I'm sure X-Force was. Sometimes
I am not familiar with that.
Ecstatics is like a weird. Do you know Michael Allred and Laura Allred and the third Allred whose name I forget?
I do not.
They do like the pop art style stuff. It looks cool.
Okay.
But anyway, this is Comic Talk. We've been having Comic Talk. Gonna close this segment of Comic Talk. Usually it's like not Western stuff because people on the internet, nerds who play video games, are more familiar with manga, as it were. And I myself am not too familiar with superhero works. And fucking nobody cares about what Drawn Quarterly is putting out, I care about what Drawn Quarterly is putting out. Hey, Drawn Quarterly. If you can hear me.
I have not.
Give me a job.
Yeah. What's up?
I'm telling Drawn Quarterly to give me a job if you're listening. If you're looking for someone with a lot of publishing experience, I'm your man. What were you saying?
I am not nearly as familiar with manga as I am with Western comics.
Oh.
And I'm not super familiar with Western comics, but I have probably read maybe 50 different volumes of random manga in my life, and that's about it.
Seems to. Yeah. Now, is this like truly random? Truly like.
Not truly just random number generator.
Yes.
But
here's volume 6 of D. Gray Man. Time to move on to the first volume of Tagami Bachi. Yes. No. Now, when you say Western, do you personally shorthand Western to be superhero, or do you shorthand to mean like also like, Drawn Quarterly and Fantagraphics and like POW and like even small press, or when you say Western, do you mean like Marvel, DC, maybe Image, Dark Horse?
Not necessarily just superhero comics, but that is I would say probably 75% of the stuff that I've read in comics, just because like it was there when I was growing up.
Yes.
It seemed to be,
I came to
and
it
I have not
later in life.
Yeah, I have continued reading comics, but I have not had quite the intense reading of comics that I did in my youth any longer.
Were you ever embarrassingly into Identity Crisis?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I've ever read that arc.
You're better off. Trust me.
Yeah.
When you're a teen, you're allowed to make mistakes. That's just the rules. Especially when it comes to like art. You can every teen is allowed at least one to three Boondock Saints posters in their room.
I think I had a Boondock Saints poster in my room when I was growing up.
All teens are allowed them. You're well within your rights.
Yeah, I actually watched Boondock Saints recently. Recently, as in like the last 4 years, and I was like, "Is this really the same movie that I have memories of as a kid?" Because this does not seem quite as much like I did like.
It wasn't everything you wanted it to be.
No, it was very very much not something that I would ever like right now anymore.
It seemed to me, even at the time, it seemed like somebody made a bad Pulp Fiction. Is it a bad Pulp Fiction? Or like a Tarantino style film, but like kind of lacks whatever would be appealing about those?
When I watched it recently, it was more like a very reactionary and take on like trying to push a specific view of justice, and like not really getting, and the pulpy like kind of action stuff was seemed more like the medium that whoever the guy was that made it was trying to get across this like thing, because it feels a lot more like propaganda when I watched it this recently.
Yeah, things really change when you like grow up and you like listen to the words that they say also.
Yeah.
It really kind of goes, "Oh, weird. I was never originally listening to what they were saying. That's odd."
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I would talk to my younger self who really liked it and be like, "This is why this movie is not very good." I don't know if I would be like, "Who cares?" Or I'd be like, "Well, maybe I don't like this." I don't know.
You'd be like, "Nice try, old man."
Yeah.
I
nice try.
I know a thing or two. I'm a little bit more than you. I'm a little smarter than that.
Yes. And I very well could be. I might have reacted that way, but I think it's just as equally likely that I would have been like, "Oh, well, that's something to really start taking into consideration." But like I said, just as likely to be like, "Hey, yeah, fuck you, old man. You don't know what I like."
I know exactly what I like. And I like cool shit by cool people. They have guns and they say Bible stuff.
Yeah.
But that's video games, huh? What do you think of those things?
Quite like them. I've liked them for most of my life.
A video game liker. I know we're gonna have one of your types on the show. Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things me and my younger self would agree on.
What was your favorite game growing up?
I think my favorite game, my very first favorite game that I remember being like, "This is my favorite game," was it was like a shoot 'em up, side-scrolling shoot 'em up called UN Squadron for the SNES.
I know UN Squadron.
And I don't know why I really liked it, but I think it's one of those things where, as a kid, so you get familiar with something and you don't really understand the difference between familiarity and being good.
No,
and so I think that's why that was my favorite thing.
I was gonna say UN Squadron's good though. I think UN Squadron has.
I haven't played it since then.
UN Squadron has like the cool pilots, and you can like buy stuff in between levels. Listen, UN Squadron is like very solid, horizontal shooter of the era. Capcom made that,
I remember. Was it Capcom?
The
Capsule, because I think the
Capsule company themselves put that one out.
I remember in the main menu, I think the like icon that you selected, the like start game and options and stuff was like a picture of Ryu from Street Fighter.
Weird. I don't know about that, but I know it had like the font I remember from Mega Man X. I came to UN Squadron considerably later in life, in the emulator days. So, I've been getting a lot.
But yeah, after that it was my favorite was Chrono Trigger for the longest time.
I've been getting back into Zelda again a lot. Rando Zelda. It's a great pleasure to
The randomizer?
Yes. I cracked my first under 2 hours just before this very show.
I was always confused. In randomizers, do you just like not have any idea where the next thing is going to be, so you just have to run around until you find like, oh, this is the dungeon that's next?
Yes and no. So, listen, we're going to go on a break, and then we're going to pick up this randomizer conversation and really delve into randomizers, maybe. Who knows? Well, who knows when we come back at the end of it, because that's a whole extended conversation. But anyway, I'm trying to discipline myself to keep time as a proper host. I don't have producers manning the boards that I can allude to. Rob?
I mean, you can, but just...
Oh, I wish I had producers. I wish I had a producer, an assistant. I wish I had an assistant. Somebody get me an assistant.
I mean, you can just allude to them. You don't have to actually have them.
Listen, we are dangerously close to this show having fictional characters and people coming on playing fictional characters. Someone has said they'll do it, has threatened to do it once already, and I am like, that's not a threat, that's a beautiful promise to me. Anyway, I'm going to go to break. He'll be back. Enjoy some Linkin Park. Hello and welcome back to Indiepocalypse Radio. That was... I forgot to say all those names of the videos. The first one was... what was the first one? Let me look this up. Do you guys... Who remembers what the first one was? What was... It was... Oh...
It was, Pink Floyd and...
No, not that first. Oh, it was the Berserk one. It was the Berserk theme. Right.
Oh,
Forces. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon was the very, very first one. But I like to come back from the breaks saying what the song was. And the second one I do remember that one because that was Sin by 9 Inch Nails. And that was Breaking the Habit by Linkin Park. So, randomizer, you're asking, do you just not know where anything is, right? So, do you have any familiar with, like, randomizers? Because there's a ton of randomizers now. There's, like, one for, like, any game that you can cram into an emulator. And that's, like, classic.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so, I mean, I've seen randomizers, they go as, like, complex as everything gets moved around, item placement, enemies, what you start with, things like that. And then there's ones as simple as, you might be just a random character.
Right. Yeah, the rule set seems to vary. Like, Final Fantasy VI apparently has 2 different ones. So I imagine I have, like, different rule sets. But to bring it all back to Link to the Past, like, probably the first, certainly the most prominent and famous of them. So you know where to go, as you were asking. You know where to go by where. So the reason I think Link to the Past works very good for this is because you can access a lot of the world with very few tools. And, like, one item here and there opens up like so many different like accesses so many different like chests within the world. So you can, and like so many dungeons are like beatable fairly easily without having like all of the tools necessary. So you just kind of like how you progress through the game is knowing like, well, I have like, if I have a bow, that means I can probably beat Eastern Palace and that kind of thing. And so it's kind of like following what items you have to which item locations you can check, that sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's interesting. And I think it's just though, the glitches are very easy to do. Like the acceptable ones or whatever are very simple to do, to the point where there was one that I didn't realize you could do wrong because I was doing it right just on accident so many times. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute, why doesn't this work now? I'm like, oh, it requires a very specific like location to do, but it's so easy to like just naturally walk into that location. That anyway.
Yeah, I'm horrible at kind of performing a glitch like on purpose.
Right.
I mean, I've certainly glitched out games on accident many times. It's kind of a skill of mine when dealing with a lot of these,
yes,
smaller indie titles.
Oh,
they may not have had the QA.
Right. Listen, they don't have no. If I as a small indie developer, let me tell you something. QA. Who needs it? It worked when I played through it.
Yeah.
If you found glitches because you were going off the path that I did not play through as an expert of playing the game. And those are for like play sessions in wide open areas, that kind of thing. Things that don't exist anymore because nobody can see anybody yet. I did fill out a form for something that's theoretically holding an in-person event in November. So we'll see how that shakes out. I think, like, for better or for worse, events will open back up again.
Now, do you feel like you're more forgiving to a game with glitches if it is a smaller indie compared to a AAA?
I'm generally forgiving of like any glitch, really. I guess it depends what the glitch is.
Yeah.
Like, because a lot of like, depends if it's game breaking or something, or if it's like, depends if it's obtrusive. If it's obtrusive, I don't care if 1 million people made the game or one person made it. It's still obnoxious. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
The last time I remember getting upset about a glitch in a game was when I saved the game in an elevator in Mass Effect, which completely breaks your save and does not work. You can't load that save any longer. So if you stop there, it's done.
And that was one of those games that only gave you one save too, right? I want to say.
I don't remember actually. I just remember I didn't play it again for like 3 months because I was so upset that I lost like 12 hours of progress.
Yes, that's why I don't play new games. I play old games and I run them in emulators and I have multiple save states all the time. And by emulators, I of course mean that I burn. Yes, of course, I do burn my discs for 24 hours only, then I delete them. We all know this. Emulators don't come with pirated software.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, that's the only way I play them. It's very annoying to have to rip my Breath of Fire 3 ISO every time I want to play it, but I want to follow the law. So I rip it every time, and I delete it after 24 hours.
Yeah, can't make Daddy Nintendo upset.
No, definitely not. I would never want to make Daddy Nintendo upset. That guy's name is Bowser now. Like the guy from the game. Anyway, Nintendo. How are they doing? Those guys.
You don't hear from them anymore. I'm kind of thinking they fell off the map.
Yeah, what do they? They make the Hanafuda cards or something, right?
Yeah.
I don't really. Wait.
The last thing I remember is Bowser's Fury that they
Yes.
released.
Do I know what Hanafuda means? So I've coming in learning kanji. I've like occasionally come across like, oh, I know what that word means, or like slowly like, oh, that's also, and it's like only exacerbated my own like recognizing of like English etymology in that like, oh, so this word is just this and this together. Like, well, of course it is. Every language does that. That's what all languages are. And so you're like, oh, words don't just come out automatically, and you know what they mean. They have long-tailed origins. But anyway, I thought I knew for a second what Hanafuda meant, but I maybe don't. I did finally learn Keikaku, and I finally truly understood that it means plan and how it means plan. So I no longer need that fan sub added bonus. I could understand it myself. Anyway.
Yeah, I have to say man, I've never formally tried to learn Japanese, but definitely anything that's very commonly heard in anime, I'll pick up on it.
Yeah, I am an avowed, what would you call a nerd who likes comics and games. So it intersects with my interest of like looking for the most obscure stuff. So I need to also for this job, as it were, it's very helpful to know a language like Japanese, so that I
thought you meant just a language in general.
Oh no, I know a language. It's called English. I know half of another language.
I've seen a lot of Japanese games on itch.
Yeah,
like that's an area that they definitely haven't kind of got into. Like some of the sites that I found, the Japanese. I wanted to say doujinshi, but that's specifically comic, isn't it?
I don't know. No, I've heard the term doujin like thrown around for just like anything indie.
Yeah. Like the sites that I've found them on, I'm like, should I be doing this in a virtual machine? Am I going to get a obscure Japanese virus?
Oh, of course you are. You don't know what any of the buttons to click.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, there is like I've seen a couple of them on itch, but then like don't even know if they speak English. It's like, this is machine translated. I don't know if it's any good. Like, oh, they clearly, you got to really branch, bridge the countries.
Yeah.
And luckily, a lot of people speak English, but there's just like the density in the history of game design is what made me choose that language over any other language out there. Plus my own selfishness to want to read indie comics.
I find myself pretty forgiving when it comes to something that is, where, English obviously isn't their first language.
Yeah.
And they have to resort to machine translation. Like, I get the general idea of what they're trying to say. And
right.
When I stream a game and I realize that the developer is not English as first language, because I'm the kind of streamer who will read out loud. I'm like translating it as I'm going. So like not trying to make them sound bad.
No,
trying to localize it by speaking it.
English is a real it's a real language. I would call it that. And it's a real joy to learn. We have the pleasure of having been born into it. I would not wish English as a second language upon anybody. Especially like American English, which is a real mess. Real hodgepodge, if you will.
No, you know it's a really screwy language when just a different dialect of it, you don't understand what the hell they're saying.
Right. There's so much. Yes, that's a problem. That's a tricky thing with every language, like dialects and like regional phrases and slang.
Yeah.
But that's the life of learning languages. It's fun. I like learning languages. I was using the Bird one to learn languages, but then they put the way that I learned Spanish behind a paywall, and I was like, no, thank you. I'm not refreshing my Spanish anymore because I'm not doing this so slowly. And I was like, I'll just stick with the fact that I know enough to get by and enough to get screwed over by Portuguese over and over again.
Oh, yeah. I took Spanish throughout high school, and I basically have retained enough of it to know if someone's insulting me.
Oh, I've retained enough of it to, I could probably refresh myself. Like, 'cause I took it all the way through college and wasn't good at it, decently enough at it. So, whatever. We don't need constant refreshers of Andrew's ability to functionally sort of understand Spanish. But I know, I'm like, ooh, I can read this is Spanish. And like, no, it isn't. This is Portuguese. You little sneak. You almost got me again. I can't read this really.
Pretty sneaky, sis.
Exactly. I almost thought I could read this, and then I got tricked. But, which would be very helpful because
I took a German through high school and through some of college, and I remember I was watching this movie probably 10 years ago, and it was in Dutch language, and I was like, this is German, I can understand it, and then all of a sudden, 3 sentences later, I'm like, I have no idea what the hell they're fucking saying.
Yes, it's like, yeah, their languages are just close enough that, and maybe I should have learned it, given how many Brazilian developers there are. How many Brazilian developers there are in Indiepocalypse. If I could speak the language, it would help. But you know what? I can't speak every language. Those assholes in their tower made a bad situation for all of us. And yeah, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But anyway, speaking of a lot of work, this show is a lot of work. Universal Fast and Furious and Jurassic World crossover, huh? Late breaking news from Twitter.
What?
Jurassic Park.
Did you say Fast and Furious and Jurassic Park?
Yes, a crossover.
I was gonna say, is Vin Diesel gonna teach a Velociraptor about family?
I think so. I remember in Need for Speed 2, you could do a cheat code and you could play as a T-Rex.
I was gonna say, I was like Daytona USA. There was a cheat code where you can play as a horse.
Need for Speed 2 has a lot of weird. You could also play as an outhouse. I remember those two because those are the two we would always play as, either an outhouse or a T-Rex. And you could swing the tail around.
I was gonna say I wouldn't feel comfortable drifting as an outhouse.
I don't remember. I kind of want to try this because I remember it was really weird. Because I think you could T-Rex is very good because you could hit people with your tail. I think. And it wouldn't screw you up, but it would really screw them up.
I gotta check this out.
Yes. Can I find footage? Let me pull up my old binder from Cheat Code Central and see what I can get. See what codes I have.
This is the Cheat Code portion of the show.
Yes, this is Cheat Code Central, where we talk about our favorite codes from Cheat Code Central. Richard, what were your favorite codes from Cheat Code Central? CCC, as I knew it.
I think the one I used the most was AABB, 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 which was how you skipped a level in the Genesis Aladdin.
Oh, perfect. Rob, have you got any favorite cheat codes from Cheat Code Central?
Is the Konami code a cop-out?
It is, because they put that on T-shirts. Don't. Yeah, here we are. The good stuff. I'm not gonna go through the effort of downloading this video and then putting it on the stream. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two videos and sling them into the chat.
Oh my.
So that people know what I'm talking about. Because I don't feel like going through all the effort of, like... And you peruse those on your own time. I'm putting on a show right now. Also, I think it would screw up the editing if I like tried to, because of Voice Meter, if I tried to watch them and download them.
Oh, wow. That is literally just a cube.
Yes. Yes. Speaking of just a cube, let's box up this episode of Indiepocalypse here. I've had fun. We've had... Yes?
You're getting really good at those segues now.
I am. Listen, I am cleverer than I lead on. You can tell. I think I'm actually gonna like be very into having repeat guests, because whenever I have a guest on the person that I know, I can fire on all the cylinders, and like I can trust them to fill the space and trust them to meet me halfway and know what I'm going to say and bounce off of me. And there's a familiarity there that leads to a lot of good content trademark on the internet. But it's a little harder with people you don't know as well. They don't know your cadence. They don't know what makes you tick, as it were. And I don't know them. But I do enjoy doing this show every week to meet new people. Speaking of meeting new people, let's have these new people tell me about themselves as we wrap it up, this cube, as it were, and turn that cube into a present of a box. And Rob, what have you got to plug?
Nothing except my itch page.
That sounds like more than nothing, Rob.
I think I've got like maybe 5 or 6 games on there.
Sounds like a lot of games. What is that itch?
What is the itch?
How would one find this itch page?
You can go to herorob.itch.io to find that itch page. If you see a horribly gross purple thing staring at you, you're in the right place.
Okay, and that's Rob with one B, like I would naturally type it in, right?
No, you type it in with 2 B's. It's hero robb.itch.io.
Perfect.
You can even pronounce it Robaba if you want.
Once I go Robaba, then I start putting A's in there, and I'm not going to do that. Dirgida, what do you got to plug?
If you are watching this right now or even tomorrow, RTA Series 4 tomorrow.
Oh, you can't watch it tomorrow. You're watching on Monday.
Over on twitch.tv/warm_ham. If you're watching it later on Patreon or however you decide to do it, you could find me on twitch.tv/derivative. I stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and I have a block that I call They Came From Obscurity, where I specifically play games that are overlooked and underrepresented.
Yes, putting in the work, as it were. Speaking of putting in the work, I'm also putting in the work, as it were. So go over to indiepocalypse.com, buy any old issue of Indiepocalypse. Maybe Indiepocalypse issue number 10 might be a good place to start. There's a new issue coming out next Friday, which is an arbitrary thing, which only makes sense if you are listening to this either on Patreon, which means you may already be subscribed and you might get it delivered automatically, or like a month after it already come out. So in which case, you're screwed, buddy. In which case, actually, I think there's
there was good shit on Indiepocalypse 10.
That's what I hear. I hear there's like this game that got like bombed in another jam or something. They said, wow, this game sucks. But then Indiepocalypse was like, this game's good, actually. That's just what I hear, though.
It was a rumor I heard, too, so maybe it's got some merit.
Yeah. I hear Indiepocalypse is a home for weirdos and misfits. Listen, if you get Indiepocalypse 10, you get a copy of Spare Parts Episode 1, and Episode 2 is coming out like in a week, if not like 3 days. I don't remember the exact release date. So it's like get on board, people. There's all this stuff coming in. Anyway, I have good redirects. So if you go to /Patreon, that's how you subscribe. You get the show at $5, and at $15, you basically it's like a monthly subscription. If you really want to go all out and go for $25, I mail you a physical copy of the zine. I think they're cool. I'll sell them at events one of these days. I'm all vaccinated and ready to go out into the world. No COVID for me, no thank you. Although I do like people wearing masks all the time, and I hope if people are sick, they either don't go outside or go outside with masks, because I haven't had... Usually I get like a flu or like a cold once a year. Nothing for like a year and a half.
Oh yeah, I'm all for continuing to wear them.
Yes, let's let mass culture hit the U.S. in stride.
Maybe everybody won't get sick halfway through a convention anymore then.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking. If you're sick and you really need to go outside, still put on a mask, buddy. I don't want to get a flu. I don't want to get a cold. I hate that stuff. Let's get sick less, so then we can really, really feed the gears of capitalism, everyone. So we can't stay home. Listen, you don't get sick time anyway, so I don't want to get sick. When I go out to the store and you cough all over all my apples, I want to eat them from the bottom up so you don't notice. That's a pro tip. You can eat a whole apple, anyone. The core is imagined. It's the core of the apple is a lie fed to you by Big Apple to get you to buy more apples. You can eat that whole shit all the way down. All the way to the
Big Apple.
They're coming for you. But no, trust me, you can eat that thing all the way to, except for like the little bit, the little handle part, whatever you call that, the stem. You can eat everything but the stem. I mean, if you eat the stem, if you want to go real wild, but I wouldn't encourage it.
Good roughage.
Yeah.
Call an apple stem the handle of the apple.
I mean, it's kind of like, if you're eating from the bottom up, it's the handle of the apple.
That's fair. I mean, I knew what you were talking about.
Yeah. See? Yeah. If you know what I'm talking about, then you should go, if you have your Twitch Prime account, subscribe to me on Twitch Prime. I get $3. And Jeff Bezos gets the other $3. But if you got the Prime account, you might as well give me $3 of it, because I'm not going to give the other $3 to Bezos. I'm going to keep it to myself. Put it in my pile of money that I have in a locked room in my house that I swim in every day.
All those Apple savings.
All those Apple savings. I save all that money. Listen, if you take one thing away from Indiepocalypse Radio, it's that you can eat a whole apple and you can eat a kiwi without cutting it.
Invest in apples.
Right. Invest. I mean, listen, if we want to get boring for a second.
Giving it to Big Apple here.
If you want to get boring for a second, investing is a smart way to spend your money. If you're not going to spend it on anything else, it's like free money, dude. It's like high interest banking. As long as you don't try to not go like fucking wild and be a day trader or something stupid like that. But that's losing my punk edge. I'm sorry. One can be two things. There are so many wolves inside of me, and some of those wolves have Betterment accounts and put $10 in there, and then that $10 turns into $500. And it saves you money, everyone. But whatever. That's off-brand, I guess.
Yep.
But
eat the rich.
Yes. Indiepocalypse does not pay the bills. But it could pay the bills if we go and buy it at the buy places. Yes, truly, it should be illegal to be a millionaire. It's just like tax millionaires into non-millionaire status. There's no point to them. It's wasteful. It's irresponsible hoarding of wealth. It benefits nobody.
They're a lot bigger than millionaires too.
Yes, but exactly. But
and I think million is way too much already.
They're exactly what I'm saying. It's like million is far too high a barrier. It's far too high an amount of money to have anyway. If everyone had money, we would
it's
all.
It's like the difference between having like 5 apples and like a million apples.
Right.
You're gonna get a tummy ache.
This episode brought to you by Big Apple.
Yes, fucking Granny Smith over here, paying my bills. If you work at Big Apple and you want me to read your ads, I can. I don't know. Take out ad space in Indiepocalypse. Submit your game to indiepocalypse.com/submit. I always run into this problem where I just start bullshitting again at the end of the show, and no one stops me because I'm the host. I'm supposed to stop myself. Visit this show at indiepocalypse.com/radio. Tell your friends if you want to be on this show and you are like somebody that you think I want to talk to. If you do a thing, if you make art, and you realize that this show is barely going to let you promote your art, let me know. Wherever you think you would find me, I guess. I'm in places, you know? That's it. I'm going to close this down. If you got zines, submit them. Mini zines, it is. Single page zines. It's the hardest thing to get because I don't know how to ask people to make them. But I think it's a neat thing to have a zine within the zine that you cut out and you print and you fold up. But I'm closing the show down. We're going to leave you with the aforementioned car... No, wait, that was only mentioned in the preview, wasn't it, when I was talking about car seat headrest? Well, we're going to leave with car seat headrest. Stop smoking, parentheses, we love you, off of Twin Fantasy, parentheses, 2018. Goodbye, everyone.